Our first speaker, Matsubara-san, became Executive Vice President of NSK Limited in June 2013 and is currently a member of the board. Matsubara-san is responsible for all industrial business for NSK, including sales and manufacture of bearing and linear products, one of 3 businesses within NSK. Matsubara-san joined NSK in 1977 when I was 3 years old as a marine engineering graduate from the University of Tokyo's prestigious Department of Engineering. To further his engineering and leadership capabilities, he completed a master's in mechanical engineering at the University of London's Imperial College of Science and Technology. You'll be hearing from a very smart man. The first 15 years of Matsubara-san's career were spent in escalating roles of design and technology, where he ultimately was responsible for the entire Bearing Technology Center for NSK in 2002. During his tenure in the design and technology world, he led the development of many breakthrough products for NSK in the heavy industry and end-user segments. In 2005, he went to the American headquarters of NSK, located in Ann Arbor. He started there with the responsibility of sales growth in the industrial marketplace throughout the region. By 2009, he was named CEO of NSK Americas, head of all operations for the region. During his time in America, he led the investment into significant growth of NSK's industrial business, which dramatically improved the position of the Americas within NSK's global portfolio. In 2011, Matsubara returned to Tokyo headquarters with a promotion to Senior Vice President, Deputy Head of Industrial Machinery Business Division for NSK, having responsibilities for global investment and expansion. So I'm especially grateful that Matsubara-san has traveled all the way from Japan, so please give him a warm welcome.
Thank you, Brian. Good morning. As he introduced, my name is Masahide Matsubara, and I'm Executive Vice President of NSK Limited and member of the board in charge of Industrial Machinery Business Division. Oops. Oh, too early. Okay, anyway. And as he introduced, I have been in NSK for 38 years, and one of my more recent assignments was CEO of NSK Americas. It's good to be back in North America again and to see many familiar faces. Thank you for having me here. By the way, you may be able to tell that English is not my native language. Although many Japanese learn English during high schools, teaching is usually by a Japanese native who is able to teach according to textbooks, but are not proficient in daily conversation or practical English. Japanese taught in the way usually rate very high in written exams, but make many literal mistakes. For example, this is a US immigration card, and when completing a landing card in English in a plane, there's a column for sex, where it asks for sex, whose intended answer is male or female, but some Japanese respond once per week. Maybe you may be every day, I don't know. On my first trip to England, I asked my host what job he did by using the term I had learned during high school. What are you? To which he burst out laughing and replied, I am a man. So what I'm telling to my colleagues whose native language is not English is that English is an important tool to communication globally. But even though your English capabilities is not good, do not mind. It is not important how you say what you want to say. It is only important that you can convey what you want to say. If you can't say it, then show it with your gestures. Let me explain my background a little. When I entered NSK, I really wanted to go abroad. So I joined a studying abroad program sponsored by NSK. I must have accumulated something like 10 years of life experiences in just those 2.5 years I spent in London, in England. Each day was filled with new discoveries. All my classmates at the Imperial College of Science and Technology, University of London, took their study extremely seriously. On the other hand, in Japan, there are lots of cases where people wear themselves out studying for university entrance exams, then dedicate themselves to club activities or excessive parties in universities, and then become workaholic once they start work. For my Master of Science dissertation at the Imperial College, I researched bearing vibration analysis. This slide is an extract from my dissertation, which was written 33 years ago. And the next slide is NSK current analysis results. During 30 years, engineering has advanced so much. I spent 25 years at the Industrial Bearing Technology Center, mainly involved in product development. What I learned during this time is that creating engineers with a passion for innovation is okay, but it is easy to fall into the trap of designing only for ourselves. It is therefore vital that we put ourselves in our customers' or end users' shoes and design according to their requirements. We shouldn't be looking to obtain profit only for ourselves, but instead should be trying to achieve a win-win situation. In the late 1990s, Japan was producing the thinnest and lightest mobile phone in the world. But the Finnish company, Nokia, had the highest sales globally. Although Japanese phone also had the fast internet capabilities in the world, these only worked in Japan, making them useless in the global market. This is often referred to as Galapagos Island syndrome, very successfully evolved in the domestic market, but unsuccessful on the global market. Later, as I mentioned, I was posted to America and spent 6 happy years here. It was an important break from engineering design, bringing new and different challenges and experiences. I had to learn to meditate between sales, technology, production, and Japan headquarters, NSK Americas, and a diverse group of customers. Later, I was promoted to CEO of NSK Americas. Key to this period was hiring local staff who are well acquainted with the region for top and senior management positions, as NSK's policy to improve regional headquarters operations. And I was the last Japanese CEO, and I am happy to say the transition to a fully empowered local management team has been a great success. These last 4 years, when I returned to Japan, I was appointed deputy head and later head of the Industrial Machinery Business Division headquarters. So what have I learned along the way? One of the greatest opportunities afforded me during my career was to travel to many countries and to meet people of variable cultures. In these travels, I've had a chance to discuss cultural differences that also play a role in developing relationships. When discussing the difference between a Japanese and English culture with an English friend, he commented that Japanese personalities are very different to English, despite the two countries both being islands. He said the Japanese tend to be quite group-oriented, whereas English are more independent. A famous Japanese comedian probably expressed this best. He said, Japanese are not afraid to cross at a red light as long as everyone does it together. At a later date, I met a French person who boasted that English people like to think they are independent. But you only have to look at English houses to see they are not independent people. Their houses are all the same in style in the village, whereas French houses are all different. It's we, French, who are the truly independent people. That's what he said. And to highlight some cultural differences I've learned over the year, there are two jokes which help explain. The first one is Titanic joke. When the captain of the Titanic was trying to lower the last lifeboat with women and children, there were Italian, German, Russian, Englishman, American, and the Japanese trying to get on the boat. To avoid this, the captain said something to each to convince them to jump overboard instead. To the Italian, there's a beautiful woman swimming in the sea. To the German, rules state that you should jump into the sea. To the Russian, there are lots of bottles of vodka are floating over there. To the English, a gentleman would jump into the water at the times like this. To the American, if you jump, you will be considered a hero. To the Japanese, they are all jumping. The second one is beer joke. What would you do if there's a fly in your beer? German, take out the fly and drink the beer as alcohol kills all the germs. English, wouldn't touch the beer, make a sarcastic comment to the manager and leave. American, take the fly out, drink up the beer, and then file a lawsuit against the restaurant. The point is that people all over the world start off life with a received view of other cultures. But when we travel and truly interact with each other, we learn these caricatures are rarely completely right or wrong. I have constantly been amazed at the differences in environment, culture, and business practices, and enjoy the challenges this brought. Thanks to this experience when I was younger, I feel I've really come to understand global business. In understanding other cultures, we first have to understand our own cultures. Then understanding diversity and respecting each country's culture is key. There are all kinds of different values worldwide. And so when working together, we need to build a relationship based on mutual respect and trust. At NSK Americas, I was able to build a relationship of mutual trust and respect with my colleagues by experiencing the same trials and tribulations as them. In order to do business globally, what I have learned are be aware of global events affecting the world. We need to work together, utilizing our differences in nationality, religion, race, gender, age, etc., to face crises affecting the whole human populations. 2, have conviction and confidence. Without this, you can't understand your own position and do not understand the other person's. 3, pay considerations to the other parties. When I was abroad, I learned the consideration of others is extremely important for my customer executives in high esteem. It is not just word use. Even in casual situations, I felt consideration was still being paid, even though they were so busy. How's everyone, or how's the Japanese economy doing? They would always take the time to speak with whoever was around. I found this is the basis of human development. They are modest, there is no bragging. In my career, I've had the pleasure to work with distributors in North America, South America, Japan, Europe, China, ASEAN, India, Middle East, South Africa, and so on. What I found is the model of bearing distribution in North America is by far most advanced. To really understand this model is important for me as an executive. In Asia, the most of distributors are family-owned and generally distribute bearings, mainly a single brand. For Japanese distributors, NSK has 44 primary distributors in Japan. Almost all of them are family-owned business. The benefit of these family-owned distributors is a long business relationship with customers. As Japanese manufacturers are still primarily built on the concept of lifetime employment, these long-standing relationships are extremely important. For mainland Chinese distributors, real business starts with kanpei. It's a bottom-up or toast. Drinking a quite strong Chinese white liquor. It is very important to take a drink with all the attendees one by one. So several times I almost passed out after dinner to make a success in business. Although China is one country, ways of thinking differ depending on region. In the South, many people have a long history of business with Asia countries. So the South is a commercial district. In the East of China has around a 4,000-year history of industrial development. So the East is a production district. In the North, Beijing has been the capital city for almost last 800 years. So the North is a government district. So we need to be aware of the history and the customs of each region when conducting business. For ASEAN distributors, most of bearing distributors in the ASEAN region are ethnic Chinese. Although currently they have little business connections with mainland Chinese. They have a strong feeling of independence and a sense of responsibility, and have an abundance of knowledge relating to economics and business, and are very rational and fast-paced. Rather than the process, the results are more important. It's likely the same for any countries, but if you really try to like their country and its people, they will be all the more friendly to you. And they are welcoming if you try to immerse yourself in their country culture by trying their food, etc. Moreover, the concept of faith is heavily rooted in Chinese culture. So it is important to be aware of the importance of faith when conducting business with them. Most of business success lies in personal acquaintances. In America, many distributors are public corporations in contrast to many other countries, where the model is often a family-owned business, where the owner has heavily and personally invested in the company and its product lines. This can create different relationship challenges because egos and heritage come into play more than with corporate employees. And as suppliers, we have to respect the owner's views and strategies, even if they don't always suit our plans or ambitions. To conclude, I'd like to say that in Japan, we value the idea that harmony is the greatest of virtues. Clearly, values vary greatly between countries with no common indicators, and these differences can put ever greater distances between countries. But surely, mutual understanding and harmony are necessary in closing the gap. No matter differences in language or culture, we are all still human beings. Rather than using cheap tricks, we'll be able to gradually build a real relationship of trust by using our global human nature of honesty and sincerity. The point I'm trying to make is by taking a long-term view and cooperating no matter the situation, we'll be able to build strong teams regardless of cultural differences. This sincerity and teamwork have been a winning formula for me in my career. And this is what I learned from my experiences in the dynamics of global relationships. Before I stand down, I'd like to extend my personal thanks and our country's gratitude for America's support after 3/11 earthquake. On March 11, 2011, there was a terrible earthquake and tsunami that devastated Japan. At the time, I was a long-term expatriate in USA and still based in Michigan. But I happened to be participating in management meetings on the 21st floor of our headquarters in Tokyo. Earthquake is fairly common in Japan, but we knew this was different, very different. And I was actually surprised at how calm the Japanese were in the face of such a disaster. When I returned to Americas, the news channels were full of news on the earthquakes and praised the response of the Japanese public. These broadcasts emphasized that the Japanese are very patient and hardworking people, even when faced with a challenge of this magnitude. Although 4 years have passed, I'd like to take the opportunity to express my gratitude to the US troops stationed in Japan for their assistance in their relief effort through Operation Tomodachi, which means friends. The US 7th Fleet Force delivered more than 260 tons of humanitarian assistance and disaster relief supplies to the survivors. The operation took place from 12th of March to 4th of May 2011. Involved 24,000 US service members, 189 aircrafts, 24 naval ships, at the cost of 90 million US dollars that was absorbed by the United States. This event and the response by the world, especially America, will be a lasting memory for me. Thank you.